Hey guys, what's going on? This is Tashira Ayers, the founder of Female Football Frenzy and your host of F3TV, the Virtual Lounge. Thank you so much for joining us today and every Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for all things football, fashion, and philanthropy. We are excited to come to you with this format, and it is absolutely growing. It is absolutely exciting just to have women like you and myself who are football mavens, fashionistas, and philanthropists, those of us who love and enjoy the community and doing things for other people. This is a format and a forum for us to connect and to talk and to share our thoughts and opinions on all things we love. And so, Female Football Frenzy, Tashira Ayers, I'm your creator of the movement and your host of F3TV, the Virtual Lounge. Now, we have some NFL action playing in the background. For those of you that are following NFL Live or NFL Today, you know that this is Decades Month, and so we right now are tuning in to the highlight of the Vikings, the Minnesota Vikings, and some of their most valuable players. And of course, you cannot talk about the Vikings without talking about Vince Carter, the all-time one of the greatest wide receivers there is in the National Football League. Okay, so we got that going on. We have some natural sunlight going on in our studio, the sounds of the world outside, and just to kind of make it natural and feel like it's sunny out here on the East Coast, and we're really, really enjoying it. So listen, if you're not already, follow us on Twitter at Frenzy03, and that's Frenzy03. We're also on Instagram, of course, at Female Football Frenzy, and visit and follow our blog, all right? FemaleFootballFrenzy.wordpress.com. All right, that is our blog. And right after today's show, we'll post our F3 Fashionisto of the week. All right, F3 Fashionisto of the week. And if you're following us, you know that that is an NFL player that we select each week who we just love their lay, how they dress off the field, whether it's a night out, whether it's a function, an event, an award show, or just a date night with their significant other. And so we select three players during the course of the week. We post it up on Instagram and Twitter, and we ask you, our viewers, our followers, to help us select this week's F3 Fashionista. And there's criteria. Yes, there is. You have to visit our blog, and you will see how we decide, how we select who our fashionista is of the week. All right. So listen, we're going to start today's show off like we do with every other show, and that is with the week in review. And so, like I said, we pay very close attention to the things that are going on in the NFL. And this week, just like the last several weeks, I could say, especially since the draft, Manziel is at the top of the list when you talk about events and weekend review. And so Manziel versus Brian Hoyer, who is the current Cincinnati Browns quarterback. Manziel told Aditi this week Aditi of the NFL news reporter that he expects to be the starter week one of the 2014-2015 NFL season. Now, over in the dog pound, over in the dog camp, the players are kind of sick of hearing about Manziel and all of his off the field activity. These guys are telling, reporters and the news folks and folks like us, we're ready to play ball. We're here to play ball. We're not here to talk about Manziel off the field activity. This is about football. We recruited him to be a good athlete, a great athlete, to live up to all of the hype and stats and expectations and speculations that has been going on around. So here's our perspective. This is what we feel about it in F3. Now Hoyer, he in our or my opinion, he has not put a stamp on his place as a quarterback for the Browns, for the dog camp. It's not stamped and sealed and signed and sealed and delivered like some of the other quarterbacks that we can name around the league. It's not that way. It's not like we have Colin Kaepernick for the 49ers. We know Cat is the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. It's not that way. Tony Romo, as much as I'm not a huge fan of Romo, we know that the Dallas Cowboys are not replacing Tony Romo with any other quarterback. I don't think Hoyer has that position yet in the dog pound. And if he did, I'm not sure if the Browns would have necessarily recruited Manziel. So with that being said, not to say Manziel cannot be the week one starter for this coming NFL season. However, I at this point think it's all speculation and all of it is hype until he steps on the football field. That is what I'm convinced. There are no NFL statistics that we can compare to Hoyer versus Manziel, and we can speculate because of his college career, of course. But again, when he steps on that field come week one, game one, day one, when it's time to play, should he be the starter or even the backup? You know, if Hoyer is the starter and Manziel comes in as the backup, maybe Hoyer doesn't have a good game, which I don't think he has room to do. Like if Hoyer is the starter, he needs to solidify that position and make sure he puts up those numbers, because should he make a mistake, should he get injured, Manziel is coming in, and from the looks of it, he's going to establish his place as the starting quarterback of the Cincinnati Browns. All right? The Cleveland Browns. I'm sorry. I'm like Cincinnati Browns. That's not right. The Cleveland Browns. All right? So that's our take on the whole Manziel Hoyer. And when you check out our blog, you'll find some of the statistics, some of the stats that Hoyer put up last year as the quarterback. All right. Also this week, we're talking a little 49ers news. As everyone knows, Vernon Davis is not showing up to camp because there are still some things going on with his contract. And according to Sharp, he's not losing sleep over the contract not being solidified, but he is standing on his ground that off-season practices are not on his schedule at this point, or at least he's not obliging by those things that are on his schedule. He skipped practice at the 49ers as he, quote, develops his own brand off the field. But as it turns out, as it stands, the attempt to earn him $4.7 million, he's due the season with more than 2 years left on his current contract. And that quote is not at the end of the world if I don't get a new contract, he told the Atlanta Journal-Constitution on Thursday, which is where he is. If I get it, it's a good, it's moving slowly but surely. So it's moving along. Things are progressing, but he is not at the place now where he feels like he can go to practice. You know, he's skipping off season until his contract is solidified, until he understands fully what he'll make as an awesome contributor to the San Francisco 49ers. And sidebar, I kind of have the wet look going on. I'm not sure if you like kind of see that there. Let me get these things together. Yeah, so I have the wet look going on today. And my handmade earrings I received from about 2 years ago from a model, a young woman who is an awesome young lady. But she's a model. Her name is Tweety Illatu, and she is actually away now in college. But I met her at the age of 16 while I was covering a red carpet for 7 Days of Fashion in Philadelphia. And from there, I was able to support a few of her events. And one of those events, I got these lovely handmade earrings that kind of dangle. They have the shoulder action going on here. So, and just some natural makeup here. Of course, have the cheekbones accentuated and some natural lip gloss. The Lady Gaga, which I still have from like, I don't know, 3-4 years ago. Gaga had a lip with MAC, and it is my all-time favorite. I'm like at the end now, so I'm kind of like scraping in the lipstick jar. So anyway, that's today's face. That's all that's going on. So that's what we wanted to highlight this week from our perspective, from the female's perspective. So Manziel, you know, right now, I know the ladies are loving you. I know you're getting more attention than the norm simply because of who you are, and it's nothing new. I know college actually allowed that same type of reaction and response from those women, just by nature of who you are. But as it relates to football, as it relates to getting down to the thick of things, we want to see the play. All right, you have an awesome chance, an awesome opportunity to take Hoyer's position, which we believe is not signed, sealed, delivered. It's not etched in stone. He did a pretty good job last year. But again, you know, it's not a Tony Romo. It's not a Eli Manning or Peyton Manning. It's not a Colin Kaepernick, where we know those guys are absolutely the quarterback for their respective NFL teams. Okay, so that's the week in review. Share your thoughts with us on Twitter at Frenzy03. You can also visit our blog, follow our blog at femalefootballfrenzy.wordpress.com. Give us your thoughts on the Manziel Hoyer conversation, and who do you think is going to be the starter come week one for the Cleveland Browns over in the dog pound. They're sick of hearing about the off-season activity, off the field activity, I should say. But what do you think? it is. Do you think it's hype? Do you think Manziel will live up to all of this glory, that's being put up? We actually posted something on Instagram this week where we get people's feed. We had quotes, all right? We had a quote from Mike Evans on Johnny Manziel, and he basically said that the league has not seen anything like Johnny football. All right, so we want to hear your thoughts. All right, femalefootballfrenzy.wordpress.com. Please do comment and follow us on Frenzy at Frenzy03 on Twitter. So it's Decades Month, okay, and this past week we've been focusing on the 90s. I personally loved the 90s, okay, probably because I grew up I was born in the 80s, okay, 1980 to be specific, but like the growing up period, came in the 90s. The 90s was the best music decade, hands down. No one can convince me otherwise. I know we have trendsetters and pathfinders and those that paved the way that came before us. Auntie Aretha Franklin, we have Patti LaBelle, we have James Brown, and just so many others across all genres. The Beatles and oh, we just experienced another loss this week. Bobby Womack passed away yesterday. We send prayers out to his family, near and far, to his family, those that he leaves behind. Another great artist. And so we have those types of people that are actually these people that have paved the way are really leaving here, and it's up to us to take the baton and to run with it. But like I said, we have a lot of those folks that because they were, because they were able to listen to the music freely and express ourselves the way that we're able to do. With that being said, I still believe the 90s is the decade. It was like the transition out of the 80s into this newfound love of hip hop, and then eventually R&B and just rap music becoming hip hop, due to the influence that R&B had into rap music. You started to see more collaborations across genres as we got into the 2000s. But I just believe the 90s just set that path, and they really, really, everyone was an individual. They had their own style. Every song didn't sound the same. We weren't inundated with auto tunes. You know what I mean? And so I love the 90s. And so it brings me just as much pleasure to talk about the 90s decades. The first three things that come to mind, or two things that come to mind when talking about the NFL in the 1990s, is the San Francisco 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys. Those are the first two things come to mind. We go from Joe Montana to Alex Smith. We have Emmitt Smith and the Playmaker, Troy Aikman. Those teams kind of went back and forth in the 90s between Super Bowls, each winning a significant amount. If I'm not mistaken, the 49ers won 5, and I believe the Cowboys won 4. It might have been the other way around. But the 90s was an amazing decade. We have players that, like I mentioned, Troy Aikman and Michael Irving and Emmitt Smith and Moose, the offensive lineman. Moose was there. Joe Montana, Deion Sanders, Alex Smith, to name a few. There were just tons and tons of things. And so what we're going to do, I'm going to give you some of these top players, and I'm going to leave the top 5 for you to go visit our blog, all right? Visit our blog, femalefootballfrenzy.wordpress.com, okay? So, again, the top 5 we're not going to share with you. We'll go down the list of the top 15 of the some of the best players. Just know that some of the ones that I named could perhaps be in the top 5, all right? So let's start with our honorary mentions, okay? They didn't make the list, but we believe that they should have absolutely been part of the top 20, at the very least, some honorable mentions, all right? So first we have Shannon Sharpe of the Denver Broncos and Steve Atwater, also of the Denver Broncos. They didn't make the list, but kudos to them. From a female football maven's perspective, you most certainly should have been on that list, especially Shannon, who is an exceptional journalist and commentator on ESPN, and he is absolutely sharp. I mean, some of his digs get some controversial remarks and responses, but I love the mixed patterns that he has. He embraces the thick knot on the tie, and he loves patterns and crisscrossing. He's very sharp, very clean. And so, Shannon, to you from Football Mavens of Female Football Frenzy, you are one of our top 20 in all-time 90s players of the National Football League. So salute you. Smooches to you. Actual on the list, Terrell Davis, all right? The running back's career started early. He would have ranked higher, but there were a lot of Hall of Famers during Terrell Davis's day. But he was an exceptional player. Marshall Faulk, of course, Marshall Faulk. We cannot go without him. He was an MPV 90. I'm sorry, MVP. In 99 and 9 and an MVP in 2000. He didn't fall within the higher part of the list. However, in 99 and beyond, he rushed for over 1,000 yards in those 3 seasons. Thurman Thomas, he is an Hall of Fame running back, but he's an underrated player, probably because the Buffalo Bills don't get a lot of attention overall. But they did win 4 Super Bowls, and he was part of those Super Bowl teams. He led the NFL in yards from the scrimmage from years 90, 91, and 92. So very underrated, but obviously decorated with awards and setting records. And he's a 4-time Super Bowl champ. Rod Woodson, of course, one of the premier defensive backs, not named, but he has been intercepting 46 passes in 10 years. That's pretty darn good. Chris Carter, average playoff numbers kept him below Jerry Rice. And actually, I said Vince Carter earlier, but I meant Chris. Vince is a NBA player. He kept him below Jerry Rice. You know what I mean? He didn't have high playoff numbers because his team didn't make it to the playoffs that often. And watching the recent NFL coverage of the Minnesota Vikings, we saw many times where they took you right to the cliff. And they just left you hanging, kind of like the Philadelphia Eagles tend to do every year. Sorry, Eagles fans, but it is the absolute truth, and you feel it beyond what we feel it. But because he didn't have many playoff appearances, his catches and yards after the catch obviously were non-existent and essentially in comparison to folks like Jerry Rice. And when putting together a list like this, all of those things are taken into consideration. You know, you have people like Barry Sanders, who was a phenomenal running back. I mean, an absolutely phenomenal running back. It did not get any better than Barry Sanders, but he played for a team that was horrible. There is just no other word for it. It was absolutely horrible. And there's a lot of controversy on what happened with Barry Sanders, why he left when he left so abruptly. His team wasn't willing to let him go and play for another team. There was a lot of speculation about it. But at the end of the day, you cannot take away who Barry Sanders was and is as an all-time quarterback, all right? Running back. So Chris Carter, he is on the team. His most productive seasons was from 93 through 99, and he had a total of 683 total recorded catches and 122 reception seasons during that stretch. So there was 2 games between those 6-year time period that his catches or receptions and yards after totaled 122 yards. Bruce Matthews is an All-Pro and All-Pro Bowl selection in this decade. He's a Hall of Famer, and he didn't miss one game from 98 to the end of his career in 2001. Incredible. John Elway, bam. Broncos, John Elway. You say Broncos, you say John Elway. They go hand in hand. He's now in the front office of the Broncos and had a really major role in getting Peyton Manning over to the Denver Broncos, which I have to admit, I was really rooting for Tebow, you know, just as a player overall. And as we know right now, he does not have a job with the National Football League as a football player. And I was a little disappointed that Manning went and took his job, you know, took the young boy's job and really didn't give him a chance to develop as a National Football League player, as an NFL player. There was a lot of speculation that he was a college player, but he wasn't an NFL player. And unfortunately, depending on how you view it, that ended up playing itself out. I think that he could have been more of a contributor to the National Football League in a different position. I don't know if it was slot back. I don't know if it was running back. He could catch. You know, I'm not sure if quarterback was necessarily the position for him, but there were other options certainly for Tim Tebow. But back to the Broncos, kind of getting off the mark here, but back to the Broncos, John Elway, he was the starter quarterback, and in the 90s, he won back-to-back Super Bowls in his late 30s. You know, success didn't come for him until after the 30 mark, which tends to be the old man mark in the National Football League. You know, if you play beyond 30, you're an old man, you're doing something right. And he did that, but he couldn't stay healthy, so obviously had to retire. I think he did an exceptional job for the Denver Broncos while he was there, and continues to be a great influence for the league or for the team and the front office. Michael Irvin, we mentioned him earlier, of the Dallas Cowboys. He was one of the best receivers in his era. Between he and Jerry Rice, Michael Irvin, known as the Playmaker, was one of the best receivers. And for those of you that remember, may or may not, Michael's career came to an end due to a terrible hit. I believe it was against the Philadelphia Eagles, to the head. And to my understanding, if I recall correctly, the doctors warned him that should he play again, it could really do some heavy brain damage and cause a lot of damage to him. So Michael Irvin. Randall McDaniel, he was the best offensive lineman during the 90s decade, and it's really not debatable. There's no other statistics that need to be given. Junior Seau, the star linebacker, played for the Chargers, and he was top-notch, win or lose. He earned the first of 12 straight Pro Bowl selections in 1991, and we just salute you, Junior Seau. The top 10 players. Now I'm going to go again down to the top 5, but the 1 through 5, we're going to leave it for you to go visit the blog. All right. Derek Thomas. He was a starter. He had 12 sacks, a 12-sack season in his first season. You couldn't overlook him. He made the Pro Bowl 8 times in the 90s, but he really cemented the change in the linebacker position once in the wake of Lawrence Taylor's dominance in the 80s. And so he came in as the 90s and really solidified the importance of the linebacker. Bruce Smith, he was a defensive end. He often was the league's premier tackler, and he was consistent in his performance, okay? He went to play in 4 straight Super Bowls in the 90s, and 1990s and 99, he had a total of 113 and a half sacks. Did you hear that? 113 and a half sacks of his 200 came within his first 9 years of playing. No one else has reached that mark yet. 8, Reggie White. Yes. Shout out to Reggie White, his family. He has gone on to be with the Lord. He was a saved man. He was a pastor, a praying man. And actually his death was really abrupt and just unfortunate and really unexpected. And it was a loss to the NFL, was a loss, obviously, first and foremost, to his family, but just a loss to the National Football League community, fans everywhere, lovers of the game everywhere. But he was certainly deserves to be in this top 10. And they called him the Minister of Defense. And the Green Bay Packers, the Cheeseheads, they really had a great guy, a great player in Reggie White. He's a Hall of Famer defensive end, and he posted 7 double-digit sack seasons during his decade of play. Troy Aikman, we also mentioned him again. Is he underrated for being number 7? Comment Frenzy03 on Twitter. Is Troy Aikman underrated? Often seen during the season, hosting games and really giving some awesome feedback as a professional player and now a professional journalist and reporter. But we really salute him, and I consider him a journalist, even though he's like hosting the games. I love his feedback. I like his take. I like his responses, and he may give someone criticism, but also provides some really valuable ways to improve play even during the course of the game. All right, so Troy Aikman comes in at number 7. Steve Young, one of my favorites. It went back and forth with Young and Aikman on this top 20 list, but Steve came in at number 6. He was outperformed by Aikman on many times, but the 49ers offense really shined bright, like I mentioned earlier, from 91 through 98, and he led the NFL in passer rating, so that brought him a step higher than Troy Aikman on the top 20 list. And I mentioned earlier about the Super Bowls that they won in the 90s, and he won a Super Bowl MVP, as did Aikman, I'm sorry, and the two the leagues gave him a nod. Now, we'd like to hear from you. Troy Aikman, Steve Young. Troy Aikman, Steve Young. What are your thoughts? Hit us up on Twitter at Frenzy03. Should Troy Aikman be rated higher than Steve Young? Hashtag F3TV in your post. All right. Number 5, I was about to tell you, but I'm not going to do that. All right. We're now at number 5. We went through the list. At number 6 is Steve Young. Number 7 is Troy Aikman. Number 8 is Reggie White. Number 9 is Bruce Smith. Derek Thomas comes in at number 10, followed by Junior Seau. Number 11, Randall McDaniel. 12, Michael Irvin, the playmaker. Number 13, all-time Denver Bronco, John Elway. Number 14, Bruce Matthews. At 15, 16 is Chris Carter. 17 is Rod Woodson. Marshall Faulk is 19. And 20, Terrell Davis. And then for the F3 TV honorary top 20 list mentions of the 1990s, Shannon Sharp and Steve Atwater, both also of the Denver Broncos. So to see the top 5 lists, the top 5 picks of the top 20 list of the 1990s National Football League, visit our website, our blog at femalefootballfrenzy.wordpress.com. All right. We will also share with you who is the Fashionisto of the week. And if you're not following us on Instagram, then you wouldn't see the faces of these beautiful, beautiful people. Todrick Verdell, D. Ford, and Eric Pinkins. All right, cast your vote at Frenzy03 now, and you'll see who we select by the end of the show. Okay? Now, we added a new segment to the show, and as female football lovers and football mavens and fashionistas, we definitely want to give a salute and a shout out to all of the female football leagues that are out there. Okay? Now, we're women that cover the National Football League. All right, the Female Football Frenzy is a movement. It's a campaign. It celebrates the power of women. It celebrates what we add and contribute to things that are normally associated with men. But we are the mothers that bear these young men. We are the mothers that help to groom these young men to become the players and contributors to society that they are. So you cannot overlook the fact that we also have buying power. There are stories being released from the National Football League from years ago that talks about the influence that women have over merchandise, being consumers, and merchandise that is coming through and being targeted more and more to women. So Female Football Frenzy is aligning with that realization that society is having. And so in that, we love football, we love fashion, we love philanthropy. We talk about it from a female's perspective, but we also want to include those women that are on the gridiron as well. And so this week, we are actually going way, way, way down south. Well, maybe not too way, but to Mexico, and we are saluting Pasión de Tacheras. All right, Team Pasión de Tacheras is a female football league down in Mexico, and if you are not familiar with them, follow them on Twitter. Again, it's Pasión de Tacheras, and of course that's in Hispanic. And so search for them on Twitter, or you could Google them and find out who they are. But we salute you, ladies. All right, kisses to you for being on the gridiron and for representing women everywhere. And to those that say the sport is too tough for us to participate, we make it our own. So shout out to Pasión de Tacheras, Female Football League down in Mexico. All right, so we have 2 minutes left before the conclusion of the show, so we're about to wrap up. Hope you've enjoyed it. We have a lot of great things that are coming up. We've been recruiting new folks to participate in our show. We're going to be doing some interviews, and F3 is going to be on the move. Before we get to that, though, I am so excited to have a stylist from New York who is going to be joining us during the show and talking about things like the 3 things that every player should have in their closet, the do's and don'ts of fashion, what to wear and what not to wear, from a night out with the guys to date night with your lovely lady or significant other. We have this young lady, and I'll leave her name a surprise, or how about this? You have to follow us on social media to find out. But we do have some contributors that are going to be partaking in the show, some co-hosts who are going to be sitting in with me, and then again, Female Football Frenzy, F3TV, is going mobile. That's right. We're going to be going around to different sports lounges in the city of Philadelphia and surrounding areas during game nights and game days and Sunday at 1 o'clock and talking to fans alike across the city and just giving their feedback for the show. And so look forward to broadcasting live and on location from several different areas in the city. We're also working on an app. Yes! An F3 app will be coming soon. Our goal is to have it to launch by the end of the summer, just in time for regular season, okay? So we'll be mobile, literally, virtually, will be mobile. We're also customizing, working on new Female Football Frenzy t-shirts for all of the ladies out there that want to represent during the season. We have that coming as well. And then again, so F3 app, F3 TV Live, and then we have F3 Paraphernalia, new and improved. I mean, I showed the t-shirts, shown them before, but our t-shirt's going to be new and improved. And we're also working with some folks out in Seattle, Washington, to customize some very, very special one-of-a-kind pieces for Female Football Frenzy. So we're expanding. We really are expanding, and we're going to share some exciting news also at the start of the season about the next F3 event, which will be F3 Philly. All right. So I am Tashira Ayers, your creator of Female Football Frenzy, the host of F3TV, the virtual lounge. We hope you enjoyed today's show, and pretty soon I'll be bringing more faces, more voices to share with you on the show. Listen, if you're not following us on Twitter, please do so at Frenzy03. Also follow and read our blog at femalefootballfrenzy.wordpress.com. We are on Instagram, Female Football Frenzy, and share with us, Manziel over Hoyer, what are your thoughts on who the starting quarterback would be over in the dog pound in Cleveland? Share with us who you think the F3 Fashionisto would be. We will definitely announce that at the conclusion of the show on our blog. And then last but certainly not least, it's Decades Week, the conclusion of 1990s. The top 5 players will be listed on femalefootballfrenzy.wordpress.com. All right, thanks again for tuning in. Join us next Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am Tashira, your host and creator. Until next time, be fashionable, be fabulous, be you at all times.